When I woke up, I was lying in a bush in the Gobi Desert, and a system notification exploded in my head. 10 billion people worldwide had been thrown into a road survival world, and the poisonous fog behind us was advancing 1 meter per second. If you ran too slowly, you died. I was still totally dazed when I looked up and saw a beautiful office lady in black stockings lying by the roadside. I walked over and patted her. "Miss, wake up." She turned her head, half her face rotted away, and opened her mouth at me. So itchy. Something furry was brushing back and forth across my face. Half asleep, I reached out and grabbed it. What I caught wasn't my girlfriend's hair, but a handful of wet leaves covered in dew. Right. I don't even have a girlfriend. I jolted and snapped my eyes open. Above me wasn't a ceiling, but several broad green leaves. Morning light filtered through the gaps between the leaves and flickered across my face. I was lying in a patch of bushes. What the hell? I tried to kip up, failed, and scrambled out of the bushes. I looked around and was instantly dumbfounded. Beneath my feet was a straight asphalt road stretching off toward an unseen horizon. On both sides was barren Gobi wasteland, overgrown with weeds, with the occasional crooked tree. The sky was gray and gloomy, and the air carried an indescribable sense of oppression. No cars, no people, no city, not even a ghost of anything. I clearly remembered dozing off over my keyboard after pulling an all-nighter writing. Just because I missed an update for one day, I got tossed into this godforsaken place? Since when can readers' resentment interfere with reality? Before I could keep complaining, an icy mechanical voice exploded directly in my head. Welcome to the road survival world. The teleportation of 10 billion humans aged 15 to 60 worldwide has been completed. Your physical condition has been restored to its peak, regardless of disease or disability. Keep moving forward. Do not let the poisonous fog behind you catch up. Current poisonous fog speed, 1 knack. You will be rewarded with 1 survival point for every hour you stay alive, and you can also earn them by killing monsters. The first 7 days are a newbie protection period, with stable weather. After 7 days, extreme disaster weather will arrive one after another. Every 100 only you advance, treasure chests will randomly spawn by the roadside. Explore the rest of the features on your own. 108 cheaters have been detected and eliminated. Second scan complete. Number of cheats, 0. This world is committed to fairness and justice. Rule breakers will be eliminated. We wish you all a pleasant game. Pleasant my ass. Those 108 unlucky cheaters were all the kind with protagonist templates like sign-in systems and god-tier choice systems, and they all got insta-killed right at the start. I held a 3-second moment of silence for them in my heart, then suddenly jolted, poisonous fog. I whipped my head around. Less than a kilometer behind me, a gray wall stretched from sky to ground and was silently pushing toward me. The rolling gray mist looked alive, and just looking at it made my legs go weak. I took off running, and only then realized my body felt absurdly good. Back when I used to stay up all night writing, I'd be out of breath after just a couple steps. Now I was bursting with energy. There was no burning sensation in my lungs. It felt like I had endless stamina. So this is peak condition? As I ran, I checked the wristband. A black fitness band had appeared on my left wrist. With a thought, a pale blue transparent screen popped up, steady as a rock in my field of vision. Interface tabs. Today's travel tips, character interface, storage space, chat interface, marketplace, shop, monster compendium. I immediately opened today's travel tips. Survival day 1. Time 8 o'clock. Weather clear. Temperature 13. 28 degrees Celsius. Poisonous fog distance 1061 meters. Speed 1. Not a newbie period. 1 meter per second. 3.6 kilometers per hour. 86.4 kilometers a day. My scalp went numb. This damn game doesn't let people sleep at all. If you don't run like crazy during the day, the moment you close your eyes at night, you're dead. I have to get some kind of vehicle. As I ran, I scanned the Gobi around me. Forget a car, I couldn't even spot a bicycle wheel. I tapped open the character screen, and a 3D projection popped out. My footsteps halted for a second, and I almost ate dirt. The person on the screen had sharp brows and bright eyes, a high nose bridge, a well-defined jawline, neat short hair, and a slender, well-proportioned figure. Isn't this what I looked like back in college before I turned into a chubby shut-in? A rush of sadness and excitement hit me at the same time, and my eyes instantly welled up. So at my peak state, even my body shape got reset. I looked down at the stats panel. Chen, ordinary human. Status, healthy. Level, 10/100. Constitution, 5 strength, 4 speed, 6 endurance, 4 perception, 6 spirit, 8. Sanity, 100/100 below 50 madness, below 30 hallucinations, below 10. Energy, 96/100 fullness, 95/100 hydration, 90/100. Strength and endurance are only 4 points? The system definitely has it out for me. I'm obviously pretty enduring. But when I saw that ellipsis after sanity, my heart skipped a beat. Sanity? Madness? Hallucinations? Don't tell me this has Lovecraftian elements too. Please don't mess with me. I'm really not that brave. Then I checked the storage space. 1 cubic meter cannot store living things. The world channel in the chat screen was scrolling too fast to read, so I switched to the regional channel. Current region, number 10,000, population 1,000/1,000. Some people were saying they spawned in a forest, while others started on a road like me. Then one message exploded. My luck is insane. I found a bicycle in a little village by the roadside. It's beat up, but I can ride it. The channel instantly blew up, everyone begging for a ride. My eyes turned red with envy. Damn lucky bastard. But there wasn't even a utility pole around me. Still, that also proved that there really were villages along the road, and if I could find one, I'd have a shot at getting a vehicle. I kept scrolling, and another message popped up. Can someone save me? A pack of red-eyed wild dogs is chasing me. My heart tightened. Sure enough, even the newbie protection period wasn't absolutely safe. I pulled my gaze away from the wristband and casually snapped off a stick from a tree by the roadside, about as thick as a mop handle. I weighed it in my hand. Better than nothing. After another 10-odd minutes of running, the corner of my eye suddenly caught sight of someone lying in the bushes by the roadside ahead. She had a curvy figure, was wearing an office lady skirt suit, and had long legs wrapped in black stockings. Thin high heels, long hair spread out over her face, completely motionless. A beauty? Wake up. The toxic fog is about to catch up. No response at all. I gently poked her back with the wooden stick, and the stiffness felt all wrong. Right then, a system prompt suddenly popped into my head. Unknown life form detected. Monster encyclopedia updated. Monster recorded. Level 1 mutant zombie. A zombie. I abruptly looked around in all directions, but there was nothing there. Could it be this one on the ground? The beauty on the ground twitched a finger, then struggled to crawl up in an extremely twisted, unnatural posture. Her black hair fell aside, revealing a deathly pale face, ashen skin, cloudy hollow eyes, and drool hanging from the corner of her mouth. Sanity -2, crap. My adrenaline went through the roof. While she had just propped up her upper body, I viciously kicked her in the butt, sending her flopping back down, then turned and ran. Huh. A hoarse roar came from behind me. After running several dozen meters, I looked back and saw the female zombie staggering after me, moving only a little faster than a person walking. I relaxed slightly. At that speed, if I ran for a while, I should be able to shake her off. I kept up a steady pace, but fatigue hit me fast. My lungs started burning, my legs felt like lead, and sweat soaked through my clothes. Endurance at 4 points was no joke. My body couldn't take it. Right then, a notification sound popped up. Survived for 1 hour, survival points +1. 1 hour already. I quickly checked the wristband, and the toxic fog distance had already changed to 5.4 kilometers. I did the math in a flash. I had run a full 8 kilometers in that 1 hour. If this were the old me, I'd have collapsed long ago. But this was only the first hour, when my stamina was at its best. After this, I'd only get slower and slower, while the toxic fog never gets tired. Panting hard, I opened the character panel. Energy 85, satiety 85, hydration 86. Then I checked the distance to the treasure chest, 92 kilometers. Run 92 kilometers on just my own 2 legs for a blind box? Yeah, I probably won't live that long. I have to get some kind of vehicle. Absolutely have to. After a short rest for a few minutes, I gritted my teeth and kept running. Just when I was about to collapse, some blurry black dots appeared on the horizon, their outlines neat and regular. Buildings. A village. I instantly felt a burst of energy and sprinted like mad in that direction. But mountains look close and horses die running to them. I ran for nearly another half hour, my lungs practically exploding, before I finally reached the village entrance. It was a small village, with a few dozen low brick and tile houses scattered along both sides of the road. It was terrifyingly quiet, without a single human voice or even the sounds of chickens and dogs, only the creaking of broken window frames in the wind. There was a faint smell of decay drifting through the air. My heart clenched, and I tightened my grip on the wooden stick, crouching low and sneaking toward the nearest house like a thief. The yard gate was wide open, and farm tools were strewn about. I didn't dare go in recklessly. I circled to the side window, planning to look inside first. The glass was covered in dust, but I could just barely make out tables, chairs, benches, an old wall calendar. Normal farmhouse furnishings, nothing unusual. But that rotten stench was even stronger. Holding my breath, I quietly edged over to another window beside it. This one should be facing the bedroom. I had just risen onto my tiptoes and pressed my eyes to the dirty glass. Crack. I stepped on a piece of broken glass. The sharp sound was like a firecracker in the dead silence. My whole body froze, and my heart sank. The next second, a rotting, twisted face suddenly appeared on the other side of the window, separated from me by only a layer of grimy glass. Our eyes met. Half of that face was completely rotted away, with yellow-green pus dripping down. One eyeball was cloudy, and the other eye socket was just a black hollow. Its mouth was stretched wide open, revealing jagged blackened teeth. Sanity -5. Holy shit. My mind went completely blank, and my body jerked back on instinct. My foot caught on a rock, and I crashed hard onto the ground. Roar. The zombie inside had been alerted and started slamming its head and hands against the window like crazy. The banging sounds rang especially harsh through the village. The fragile old glass shattered with a crash. The zombie's upper body lunged out through the window, waving its dried-up arms as it tried to climb out. I was scared out of my mind. Scrambling to my feet with both hands and feet, I didn't even stop to pick up the wooden stick before turning and bolting out of the village. I didn't dare look back and just ran for my life. After a few hundred meters, the terrifying howls and banging behind me seemed to disappear, and only then did I dare slow down and look back. The zombie hadn't chased me out, and the village had fallen deathly silent again. Bent over with my hands on my knees, I gasped for air. My heart felt like it was about to leap out of my throat, and my legs were still trembling. Still panting, I kept staring at the distant village, terrified that something else might come charging out. It took quite a while before I calmed down. Thinking back on it, I could basically be sure it was the sound of me stepping on the broken glass that alerted that thing. In other words, at least some of the zombies in this village are in a dormant state. As long as you don't make too much noise, they won't be activated. But this seemingly peaceful village was actually one giant minefield. Every house could be hiding one of those surprises, or even several. Chen opened the panel and checked his personal status. Sanity, 93/100. That rotting face suddenly appearing right in front of him had directly cost him 5 points of sanity. Together with the 2 points he lost earlier from being scared by the office lady zombie, he had already lost 7 points of sanity in less than 2 hours since the start. Now he finally understood. Getting scared and seeing this kind of grotesque scene that shatters the limits of human aesthetics can also make you lose sanity. Mainly because that face just now was way too visually impactful. The decay and distortion right in his face looked like a character model ripped straight out of a horror game, and the uncensored kind at that. Who could handle that? Thinking about it that way, that OL beauty zombie he ran into before. Actually, maybe, was kind of pretty looking. Chen shook his head and tossed that absurd thought out of his mind. Now wasn't the time to be thinking about that. He turned back and glanced at the deathly silent village. Then he looked at the endless road ahead, feeling deeply conflicted. Was he really going to give up just like that? If he missed this village, who knew how far away the next supply point would be? If he had to keep running on his own 2 legs, sooner or later he'd die. That damn toxic fog wasn't going to give him any chance to catch his breath. No, he had to go in. Fortune favors the bold. He took a deep breath and opened the chat interface on his wristband again, wanting to see if there was any useful new information. Regional channel, number 10,000, population 996/1000. Chen's pupils suddenly contracted. 996 people. He clearly remembered that when he first came in, the regional channel had been full at 1,000 people. How long had it even been? A little over an hour? And already 4 people had vanished from this world forever? This survival game was far crueler than he had imagined. Death, it turned out, was this close. He suppressed the unease in his chest and kept reading. The messages in the channel were still flying by fast. I'm exhausted. My legs don't even feel like mine anymore. Can somebody tell me when this hellhole is going to end? Hang in there, bro, upstairs. The toxic fog is watching you from behind. Ha ha ha. I actually think it's pretty exciting. It's more real than any survival game I've ever played. I just don't know if we'll be able to get the chicken dinner in the end. Anyone want to team up? I'm a girl, sweet voice, and I can spam 666. Besides the usual complaints and bragging, there were also some humble brag posts. Brothers, I think I found another village. This time I've got to find a car to drive. Pedaling a bicycle is way too tiring. So jealous of the lucky guy upstairs. I just found a pickup truck, but it doesn't have a key. I'm so pissed. Right under that message, a long string of replies immediately followed. Smash the window. Isn't that how they always do it in the movies? There are two wires under the steering wheel, one red and one blue. Make them spark and it'll start. Trust me, I've been learning car repair online for 30 years. I found a Harley motorcycle. It looked cool as hell. Too bad it didn't have a single drop of fuel, so I had to give up on it in tears. Any pros know where to find fuel? Chen flipped through those chat logs expressionlessly. There were all kinds, showing off, asking for help, complaining. He even saw a few messages saying people had run into wild animals like boars and foxes by the roadside and only escaped after a lot of effort. But from the beginning to the end of the chat log, he didn't find a second person mentioning the word zombie. Damn, Chen couldn't help cursing under his breath. So I'm the only one who got the hell difficulty start, huh? At most, everyone else had run into some ordinary wild animals. But him? He'd basically linked up with Resident Evil right from the start. This luck was really something else. Complain as he might, after reading all that information, Chen only became more certain of one thing. He had to enter the village. If he didn't fight for it now, then when everyone else was driving cars while he was still using Route 11 to outrun the toxic fog, the gap would only get bigger and bigger. Fall one step behind, and you'll fall behind every step after that. Based on his many years of experience as a flop, in this kind of post-apocalyptic setting, the real way forward was to increase his strength as quickly as possible and gain an early lead. As for cooperating with other human players, Chen had no plans for that for now. In an environment where resources are scarce and everyone is just trying to survive, human nature can't stand much of a test. When two strangers meet, what's more likely? Pulling blades on each other or teaming up to survive? Anyone with half a brain knows the answer. He had to get stronger, fast. With that thought, Chen stopped hesitating. He steeled himself, adjusted his breathing again, and once more crept toward that deathly silent village. He'd been too panicked when he ran just now. He'd even lost the wooden stick he'd finally managed to pick up. Going in barehanded was not an option. That was no different from throwing his life away. As he moved forward carefully, he rummaged through the weeds and discarded junk by the roadside, hoping to find a handy weapon. Very soon, his eyes lit up. In a dried-up ditch by the road, he spotted a rusty steel rebar a little over half a meter long. He had no idea what building this rebar had been torn from, and one end still had some hardened chunks of cement stuck to it, giving it plenty of heft. You'll do. The moment he gripped it tightly, a small light screen popped up before his eyes automatically. Item, discarded rebar. Type, construction waste. Length, 73 centimeters. Note, a section of discarded ribbed steel bar, covered in rust, but hard enough. Friendly reminder, please watch out for tetanus. Chen had to put in some effort to yank the rebar out of the dirt. He gave it a swing, and the heavy whooshing sound through the air instantly made him feel a lot more secure. This thing was way more reliable than that flimsy wooden stick from before. That wooden stick was, at best, a beginner's wooden sword. This rebar, no matter how you looked at it, had to be at least iron sword tier. Sure, it looked kind of crappy, but the damage output was absolutely there. One solid hit. Even if it didn't crack a skull, it could at least break a zombie's leg. Now that he had a weapon, he felt a lot more confident. Keeping low, he hunched down and used the sparse roadside bushes and discarded debris as cover, inching closer to the village bit by bit. Before long, Chen once again made it to about 200 meters from the village. He lowered his body and used a clump of waist-high, withered yellow grass by the roadside as cover, staring fixedly at the village in the distance. The faint rotting stench carried on the wind still assaulted his nostrils, as if silently telling him just how dangerous this place was. That broken window from earlier stood out especially clearly. The zombie that had nearly gone face-to-face with him just now was currently stuck in the window frame, half its body hanging out the window, head drooping, arms flailing unconsciously. Every now and then, with a smack, its hands slapped against the battered wall, kicking up a puff of dust. Its movements were slow and mechanical, looking stupid as hell. Chen could see clearly that the zombie wasn't even trying to climb out of the window. It was just standing there stupidly repeating the same slapping motion. Meanwhile, in the open space not far from that house, another figure was wandering around. It was a zombie that looked like an old farmer in coarse cloth clothes, shambling along and dragging one leg. Wandering nearby, its aggressiveness and mobility both seemed pretty weak. Chen silently assessed in his mind. These were way friendlier than those athletic superstar zombies in the movies that could run, jump, parkour, and climb anything. At least during the day, anyway. In some zombie movies and games, the setting is that zombies are more aggressive at night. If this was all they could do, then this village wasn't some hopeless death trap. It was a newbie village full of XP mobs and walking supply packs. Risk and reward had always gone hand in hand. He swept his gaze around once more, carefully searching the surrounding environment. Near the village entrance stood a few crooked dead trees, their branches bare, looking like they'd been dead for many years. They were actually perfect emergency shelters. If he really ran into something tough or got swarmed by a horde of zombies, then as long as he was fast enough, climbing a tree could at least keep him alive for a while. Good for attacking, good for retreating. This plan could work. His gaze kept moving, and soon, in a farmhouse courtyard with a wall only half a person tall and looking fairly run down, his eyes suddenly lit up. In the corner of the wall, leaning there quietly, was a hoe. That long wooden handle, that metal blade gleaming with a cold light. In Su Chen's eyes, it looked more lovable than any legendary weapon. The rebar in his hand had good weight, but it was too short. As the saying goes, every extra inch means extra strength. Against things like zombies, being able to keep your distance was the real key. The hoe's length fit his needs perfectly. He didn't act right away. Instead, he lay patiently in the grass like a seasoned hunter, carefully watching that courtyard. The courtyard gate was half open, and inside it was dead silent. Other than the wind, there wasn't a sound. After watching for a full minute and confirming there was no potential danger, Su Chen finally crouched low, lightened his steps, and silently crept over. He didn't go through the main gate. Instead, he circled around to the low dirt wall. With both hands pressing against the rough top of the wall, his body flipped up lightly. With his body in peak condition, doing something like this felt smooth and effortless. He carefully edged along the narrow wall top until he was above the hoe, then leaned down and picked it up. Item: ordinary iron hoe type. Farm tool length: 156 centimeters. Notes: a well-made iron hoe. It's a great helper for loosening soil and pulling weeds. Of course, in certain special situations, it can also be used to smash some hard things, such as skulls. Su Chen looked at that cheeky little question mark in the notes and couldn't help twitching at the corner of his mouth. This system prompt was pretty playful. He tried swinging it a few times, and the wooden handle sliced through the air with a whooshing sound. It felt way better than that lousy piece of rebar, by more than just one level. Satisfied, very satisfied. Standing on the wall, he looked down again and carefully surveyed the courtyard. The yard was quite open. Aside from some odds and ends and a ladder by the wall, the most eye-catching thing was the stone well built from bluestone in the middle of the yard. Beside the well, there was even a bucket tied with a thick hemp rope. A well. Su Chen's breathing quickened a little. Water. In this world, clean water, just like food, was the foundation of survival. In the shop, a 500 milliliters bottle of mineral water cost 5 survival points. It was basically daylight robbery. You had to survive 5 hours just to trade for one bottle of water. He'd probably sweat out more than 500 milliliters just from running around for 5 hours. If there was water in this well, then his early survival pressure would be greatly reduced. A wave of joy surged up in his heart, but he quickly forced himself to calm down. Now wasn't the time to celebrate yet. That old farmer zombie wandering outside and the one stuck in the window were both potential threats. If he was bent over at the well drawing water, and some villager suddenly rushed up from behind to give him a warm hug, he'd be totally done for on the spot. He had to clear out the nearby threats first. With a thought, he stored the hoe in the storage space, then returned the way he came and hid in the grass again. His target was the old farmer zombie wandering around the open area. When picking persimmons, you pick the soft ones. Holding his breath, he inched closer and closer to the target. 100 meters. The zombie showed no reaction at all, still sleepwalking in place. 80 meters. 60 meters. 40 meters. Still no reaction. Su Chen's heart leaped into his throat, and a fine sheen of sweat had already formed in his palms. He was like a combat engineer defusing a bomb, moving with extreme slowness every step of the way, terrified of making even the slightest sound. When the straight-line distance between him and the zombie closed to nearly 20 meters, something suddenly changed. The old farmer zombie, which had been wandering around aimlessly with its head lowered, suddenly froze. Its stiff head creaked around like a rusty gear, and its hollow eye sockets locked straight onto his direction. He'd been spotted. Su Chen's heartbeat skipped a beat. The smell? At this distance, he hadn't made any sound at all. The only possibility was that the zombie had caught the scent of a living person on him. The one inside the house earlier must have had its sense of smell blocked by the walls and window, and it wasn't alerted until he stepped on broken glass and made a noise. Huh. The old farmer zombie let out an indistinct growl from its throat, then started walking toward him step by stiff step on its rigid legs. It wasn't fast, even a bit slower than a normal person's walking speed. A 20-meter scent detection range, plus sound detection. That was how these basic zombies seemed to sense things for now. Chen quickly reached that conclusion. Seeing the zombie getting closer and closer, he stopped hiding. He sprang up from the grass, and with a thought, the long-handled hoe instantly appeared in his hands. Its heavy weight gave him a huge boost of courage. He gripped the hoe handle tightly with both hands, spread his legs slightly apart, and struck what he thought was a pretty standard attack stance. Stay calm, you have to stay calm, he told himself inwardly. Based on his armchair combat experience from writing tens of millions of words of novels, the only way to deal with this kind of thing was a headshot. Not only did he not retreat, he actually took the initiative to charge forward. When the zombie was only 2 or 3 steps away, Chen let out a shout and poured all the strength in his body into his arms. He swung the hoe and brought it down hard at the zombie's shriveled head. Bang! A dull, heavy crash rang out. The hoe hit the target dead on. But the scene of brain splattering that he'd imagined didn't happen. The zombie's skull was far harder than he'd expected. The blade only left a deep wound that cut all the way to the bone, and blackish-red blood splattered out. A huge recoil traveled up the handle, numbing the web between his thumb and forefinger, and the hoe nearly flew out of his hands. Roar! The attack seemed to have enraged the zombie. It let out a furious roar, and its withered, chicken claw-like hand suddenly raked towards Chen's face. Its nails were black and long, carrying a vicious gust of wind. Chen's pupils contracted, and his body's instinctive reaction was faster than his brain could think. He suddenly twisted to the side, barely dodging that deadly swipe by a hair. Then he quickly retreated a few steps, pulling the distance open again and adjusting his grip on the hoe. After missing its attack, the zombie staggered toward him again. This time, Chen was ready. He didn't choose to clash head-on and strike at its head again. Instead, he aimed at the zombie's knee and swept the side of the hoe across horizontally. Crack! A crisp sound of bone breaking rang out. The old farmer zombie's left knee twisted into a grotesque angle, instantly losing the ability to support its body, and it fell to the ground with a miserable howl. It still tried to struggle back up, but there was no way Chen was giving it another chance. Just die already. He roared inwardly as he charged forward, raising the hoe high with both hands. Using all his strength, he smashed the fallen zombie's head again and again, hard. Bang! 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 Only when that head had completely turned into an indescribable pile of mush did the zombie finally stop moving. Killed a level 1 zombie. Gained survival points +5, EXP +5. In the lower left corner of his vision, 2 lines of green text slowly appeared. Huh. 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 Chen leaned on the hoe, gasping for breath. His chest heaved violently. Those last few blows had nearly drained all the strength from his body. Looking at the corpse on the ground that was dead beyond doubt, a swirl of nausea, tension, and excitement welled up inside him. But he didn't throw up. He forced himself to look, to get used to the bloody scene. Sanity -1. Chen's expression instantly froze, and he stood there completely stunned. Wait, what? I already pushed through the mental block and actively tried to adapt, and you're still deducting my sanity? Chen found it a little absurd and couldn't help muttering under his breath. How does this system even measure that? It docks points even when I'm trying to become stronger? Seriously, where's the justice in that? This scene is absolutely disgusting, okay? The more Chen thought about it, the madder he got, and he started grumbling at the air in a lowered voice. Is something wrong with your evaluation system? I'd suggest sending it back to the factory for a full rebuild. A complaint was a complaint. He still carefully used the hoe handle to poke at the corpse on the ground. Well, no gear dropped. But 5 survival points as a reward was fine too. It looked like as long as he could kill monsters, he wouldn't have to worry about food and water. He glanced at the character interface again. Level 15/100. It took 100 EXP to level up, and killing one gave 5 points. In other words, he'd have to kill 20 to level up? Chen worked it out quickly. He lifted his head and turned his gaze toward the poisonous fog in the distance. In that case, better make it quick. Before the toxic fog closed in, he needed to gather as many useful supplies as possible. Chen tightened his grip on the hoe, then climbed over the low earthen wall again and landed lightly in the courtyard. His eyes immediately locked onto the bluestone well in the middle of the yard. He strode over and leaned forward to look inside. The inside of the well was pitch black, but with the daylight, he could vaguely make out the shimmer of water below. He picked up a small stone and tossed it down. Plop! A crisp splash came up from the bottom of the well, echoing through the silent courtyard. Water! And judging by the sound, the water level wasn't low either. A surge of wild joy instantly rushed to Su Chen's head. He almost couldn't stop himself from laughing out loud. A clean water source. In this hellhole, that meant life itself. The bottled water in the shop that cost 5 survival points a bottle was basically highway robbery. And now, right in front of him, was an inexhaustible gold mine. He forcibly suppressed the excitement in his heart and didn't start drawing water right away. He knew he could never let his guard down. He still hadn't checked the rooms in this courtyard. Carrying the hoe, he carefully approached the front door of the brick and tile house. The door was wooden, and a rusty iron lock hung on it, but it was only hanging there. It wasn't actually locked. He didn't push the door open right away. Instead, he raised his hand and lightly knocked on the wooden door 3 times with his knuckles. Knock, knock, knock. The sound wasn't loud, but in the deathly still surroundings, it was exceptionally clear. If there were zombies inside, this level of noise would be enough to alert them. Holding his breath, he stood 2 or 3 meters from the door, the hoe in his hands poised and ready to deal with danger at any moment. 1 second, 2 seconds, 10 seconds passed. Inside the house, it was so quiet he could hear a pin drop. No snarls, no banging on the door, nothing at all. Empty. Su Chen muttered to himself, but he still didn't relax his guard. He put more force into it and knocked again. Bang bang, bang bang bang. This time the sound was much louder, almost echoing through the entire small courtyard. However, there was still no movement inside the house. Looks like there really was no one there. No zombies either. Only then did he let out a sigh of relief and gently pushed with his hand. The half-closed wooden door creaked and slowly opened. A strong, musty smell hit him in the face. Su Chen waved a hand in front of his nose and leaned in to look. The furnishings inside were very simple. A square table and a few long benches, all covered in a thick layer of dust. In the corner stood a paint-chipped wooden cabinet with its doors wide open. Only after confirming there was no danger did he stride inside. He began searching through the room. There was a full set of pots, bowls, and utensils. Though covered in dust, they could still be used after a wash. Su Chen didn't stand on ceremony. He picked out some well-preserved ceramic bowls and plates, along with the large iron pot on the stove, and stuffed them all into his storage space. The biggest haul was in the corner of the main room. He found a large ceramic water jar about half a person's height. The mouth of the jar was covered with a wooden board, and it was completely empty inside. But after cleaning it, it would definitely make a perfect water storage container. After that, he found some rice in a kitchen sack that had already turned black and moldy. There were also a few potatoes in the corner cupboard that had completely shriveled up and turned black. He had just picked one up to inspect it when a system prompt popped up. Spoiled, rotten food detected. Contains large amounts of harmful bacteria and toxins. Not edible. Su Chen curled his lips and tossed the stuff aside. Then, on the bed frame in the bedroom, he found a bamboo sleeping mat and a folded cotton quilt. Item: ordinary bamboo sleeping mat type. Daily necessities note: woven from bamboo. It's nice and cool to sleep on in summer. At least it's cleaner than sleeping directly on the ground. Item: clean cotton quilt type. Daily necessities note: although the style is old-fashioned, it's very clean and might bring you a warm dream. Not bad, not bad. Su Chen nodded in satisfaction and put both the mat and the quilt into storage. Even though it was summer now, who knew how the weather might change later? It's always better to be prepared. After looting the house, the most important part came next. Excited, he ran into the yard, took out the large ceramic water jar from his storage space, and set it steadily beside the well. The bucket and hemp rope next to the well were still there. He picked up the bucket and tested the rope. It was still fairly sturdy. Time to get to work. He tossed the bucket down into the well, felt the weight coming from the end of the rope, and started pulling it up hand over hand. Before long, he hauled up a bucket of clear, ice-cold well water. He poured it with a splash into the large water jar beside him, then threw the bucket down again, repeating the process over and over. This kind of primitive labor felt a little novel to him. Sweat ran down his forehead, but his heart was full of drive. What he was drawing up wasn't water, it was hope for survival. It took a full 10+ minutes. Only after filling the entire large water jar did Su Chen finally stop, panting from exhaustion. Looking at the jar full of crystal-clear well water, he broke into a smile like an old farmer celebrating a bountiful harvest. He placed his hand on the rim of the water jar. Item: a jar of clean well water capacity, about 500 L quality, safe to drink directly. Note: sweet and refreshing. It can effectively replenish your fluids. Friendly reminder: drinking untreated water carries a risk of diarrhea. Of course, in this world, you probably have bigger things to worry about. Perfect. With a thought, Chen stored the entire water jar together with the water inside into his storage space. Looking at the extra large jar of water in his storage, his sense of security instantly shot through the roof. With these 500 L of water, at least for the near future, he wouldn't have to worry about thirst at all. He suddenly thought of something and immediately opened the trading post. After finishing all this, it was like he remembered something and immediately opened the trading post interface. At this moment, the trading post was no longer as empty as it had been at the very beginning. Instead, it was packed wall to wall with all kinds of goods, a dazzling array of stuff. He gave it a quick glance and almost burst out laughing. Product, 1 brick price, 1 survival point seller's note. Great feel, nice and hefty. Perfect for home and travel, mugging and looting, and self-defense too. You deserve it. Product, unknown wild fruit price. 1 survival point seller's note. Red, about fist-sized, didn't dare eat it, calling all brave souls. Product, rusty kitchen knife price. 8 survival points seller's note. A family heirloom, letting it go with great reluctance. Product, 1 black stocking worn by a beauty, 90% new, original scent, price, 10 survival points, seller's note. Those who know. Long lonely nights, comfort for the soul. These bizarre products were basically a real-life showcase of baffling human behavior. Still, with these ridiculous sellers as a backdrop, some genuinely valuable items stood out all the more. What a bunch of characters, every last one of them. Chen could only shake his head as he watched. What even is all this? The game had started less than 2 hours ago, and people had already turned it into a junk recycling station. He used the filter function and set the product category to water. The interface refreshed. Product, murky river water, about 800 milliliters price. 1 survival point seller's note. Scooped from the river by the roadside, kind of yellow, best to boil it before drinking. If you get diarrhea after drinking it, I'm not responsible. Product, clean lake water, about 500 milliliters price. 2 survival points seller's note. Shop owner tested it personally. Tastes okay, no discomfort so far. Product, more than half a bottle of yellow liquid, about 300 milliliters price. 1 survival point seller's note. Drinkable. At least it can replenish some water. Nothing is more important than staying alive. Holy crap. He couldn't stop himself from cursing out loud, and he instantly felt sick all over. What the hell kind of person does something like this? And someone actually had the guts to sell this. Even so, faced with the seller's note saying that nothing is more important than staying alive, Chen was, for a moment, completely speechless. It's only been a little over 1 hour since the start. Has it really come to this already? After getting a rough idea of the market, he stopped wasting time and took out the bowls he'd collected, filled them with water, and listed them for sale. The product name was automatically identified by the system and couldn't be changed. Product name, 1 bowl of well water, about 400 milliliters price. 2 survival points seller's note. Buyer must provide a container of equal volume for the exchange. He listed a total of 8 orders and had used up all the containers for holding water. After finishing all that, Chen let out a long breath. As if remembering something, he swept his gaze around the yard. It finally landed on the wooden ladder leaning sideways against the wall. The ladder looked pretty old, but its main structure was still intact. Need to get up high and take a look, Chen thought to himself. This village was neither big nor small. Wandering around on foot like a headless fly would be far too inefficient and way too dangerous. If a bunch of zombies suddenly rushed out from some corner and trapped him in an alley, then he'd be crying to heaven and earth with no answer. But from the rooftop, looking down from above, the layout of the whole village would be clear at a glance. Where the supplies were, where the dangers were, where the vehicles were, he'd be able to see it all clearly. He walked over, straightened the ladder, and carefully propped it against the eaves. He gave it a little shake. It was fairly steady. He put the hoe back into storage, grabbed both sides of the ladder with his hands, and started climbing up. He had only gone up 2 or 3 rungs when a string of system notifications appeared in the lower left corner of his vision. Trade completed. You received 2 survival points. Trade completed. You received 2 survival points. Trade completed. You received 2 survival points. A full 8 notifications in a row flooded the screen. What the hell? Sold out instantly. Clinging to the ladder, Chen froze, his face full of shock. How long had it even been since he listed them? Not even a minute, right? These people are way too fast. Looks like there are far more people short on water than he imagined. Makes sense. Not everyone is as lucky as he is, starting out by finding a safe spot with a well. Most people are probably still running for their lives on the highway right now. Forget finding water. They don't even have a chance to stop and catch their breath. Looks like there's a lot of money to be made selling water. A smile curled at the corner of Chen's mouth. He'd go back down in a bit and put up more listings. He pushed down the joy in his heart and kept climbing, quickly making it onto the roof without trouble. The roof was covered in tiles, with moss already growing in some places. He carefully stepped where the beams would be underneath, steadied himself, and straightened up. His view suddenly opened up. The entire village lay in full view before him. It was a typical northern village, with dozens of households scattered loosely along both sides of the road. Red bricks, gray tiles, and earthen courtyard walls. Everything gave off a simple, peaceful feeling. The wind swept by, stirring up dust from the ground, while a few torn plastic bags spun through the air. The village was deathly quiet. Apart from a few zombies wandering aimlessly in the open, there wasn't a single living thing in sight. Chen's gaze carefully searched every corner of the village. Cars? None. Tractors? None either. This village was even poorer than he had imagined. Still, he did spot quite a few handcarts and flatbed carts. But those things ultimately still relied on human muscle. At most, they could help carry more supplies, but they wouldn't be much help when it came to outrunning the poison zone. Just as he was starting to feel disappointed, his eyes swept past the front of a fairly impressive-looking brick house in the distance. His eyes lit up at once. It was a tricycle, not the electric kind, and not a motorized three-wheeler either, but the oldest, most classic kind, a pedal-powered cargo tricycle. A bicycle front in the front. A three-wheeled cart with a cargo bed in the back. It looked a little rustic, sure, but this thing was definitely the most practical means of transportation he could hope for right now. With that, getting around would be 100 times easier and more comfortable than running on his own two legs. Chen's breathing quickened, and his heart pounded uncontrollably. He forced himself to calm down and carefully observed the area around the tricycle. It was parked in front of a house with its courtyard gate shut tight, making it impossible to tell what was going on inside. But from where he was to where the tricycle sat, there were at least 4 or 5 zombies wandering along that straight village road. They weren't far apart, moving slowly like mobile sentries, tightly locking down that whole area. Looks like getting that vehicle wouldn't be easy after all. Chen narrowed his eyes, his brain racing. A clear route of action and battle plan quickly took shape in his mind. There was only one way. Fight his way through. He stopped hesitating, carefully retraced his path from the roof, and climbed down the ladder. The moment both feet touched the ground, he eagerly opened the trading post interface. Sure enough, all 8 transactions had been completed. Not only had he gained 16 survival points, but his storage was also now filled with a pile of random containers. There were half-empty mineral water bottles, glass beer bottles, and there was even a red ceramic bowl printed with These people's containers really came in all kinds. Chen grumbled, but his hands never stopped moving. He filled those containers with well water again and put up another 8 listings. After finishing all that, he finally took out the long-handled hoe and gripped it tightly in his hand. He didn't rush out right away. Instead, he first picked up a few pebbles of suitable size in the yard and stuffed them into his pocket. Then he took a deep breath, pushed open the courtyard gate, crouched low, and slipped out without a sound. His first target was the zombie closest to him, a little over 50 meters away. Chen hid behind a crumbling courtyard wall, sticking out half his head to observe. He fished a pebble out of his pocket, estimated the distance and force, and hurled it toward an open patch of ground about a dozen meters away from that zombie. Plop! The pebble hit the ground with a crisp sound. In the deathly silent village, it wasn't loud, but it was clear enough. The zombie that had been wandering in circles suddenly paused, its stiff head slowly turning toward where the sound came from. Letting out a hoarse ha-ha from its throat, it staggered toward where the pebble had landed. Hooked. Chen was delighted inside and waited patiently. Only after the zombie had walked more than a dozen meters away, with its back just right toward him and enough distance from the other zombies, did he suddenly dash out from behind the wall. His footsteps were light, but he was extremely fast. His body in peak condition gave him excellent explosive power. In just a few breaths, he had rushed up behind that zombie. The zombie seemed to notice something and had just started to turn around. But it was already too late. Chen gripped the hoe handle tightly with both hands, his body sinking slightly as he exerted force, pouring all his strength into his arms. The hoe in his hand sliced through the air with a whistling sound and swept viciously at the zombie's knee joint from a tricky angle. Crack! The crisp sound of bone breaking made one's teeth ache. The zombie's leg was smashed broken instantly, and its body lost balance as it let out a miserable howl and pitched forward. Before it could struggle back up, Chen had already leaped high into the air, swinging the hoe in a full arc with both hands. Using the hoe's heavy metal head, he smashed it down hard at the back of the zombie's skull. Bang! One hit, one kill. Killed a level 1 zombie. Gained survival points, +5 experience +5. Chen didn't even glance at the corpse on the ground and quickly ducked back behind the wall. The whole process had been smooth and fluid, without making too much noise. Very good, the plan works. He repeated the same trick, using tossed pebbles to create noise and lure those wandering zombies one by one into secluded corners, then using his speed advantage to ambush them from behind, strike precisely, and take them down one at a time. Soon, the last wandering zombie on the road leading to the tricycle had also been cleanly dealt with. Done. Time to wrap up. Leaning on his hoe, Chen looked at the empty street and let out a long sigh of relief. Although the process had been a little nerve-wracking, everything had gone according to his plan. Just as he was about to set off and claim the fruits of his victory, that tricycle, a familiar hoarse roar, with a slight difference to it, suddenly came from not far behind him. Huh, that sound. Chen's whole body stiffened, and he whipped his head around to look. There, at the corner of a house 50 or 60 meters away, a familiar figure was shambling toward him. That curvy figure, that standard office lady skirt suit, those long legs wrapped in black stockings. If it wasn't the female zombie he had first run into, then who else could it be? What the hell? Chen's eyes nearly popped out, and he was completely dumbfounded. Miss, you actually caught up? How did she follow him here? It had been at least over an hour since he shook her off. He had run so far, then gone into the village and circled around for ages, and she still found him? That makes no sense. Could she track him? Or was she different from the other zombies? One question after another rose in his mind. He stared fixedly at the figure getting closer and closer, the shock in his heart beyond words. Ordinary zombies only have a sensing range of about 20 meters, and they basically rely on sound and nearby scent. But this female zombie had clearly gone way beyond that range. Right. Monster Compendium. A flash of inspiration struck Chen, and he hurriedly pulled up the system interface, quickly locking onto the Monster Compendium option. Then, with a thought, he used the scan function in the direction of that OL female zombie. The next second, a line of information appeared on the light screen. Species: Mutant Zombie. Level 1. Status: Hungry. Ability: Tracking. Evolution path: Basic olfactory perception. Compendium description: This is a zombie that has just completed a special mutation. During the mutation, its sense of smell was accidentally enhanced, allowing it to detect the scent of living humans from far away and giving it basic tracking ability. Friendly reminder: once she sets her sights on you, only one of you will make it out alive. Olfactory perception: Looking at the description in the compendium, Chen's face turned green. No wonder she kept chasing him. So she had a dog's nose. This was no longer an ordinary zombie. This was an elite monster with tracking ability. Looking at the words mutant zombie in the compendium and that friendly reminder saying only one of them would survive, not only did Chen not feel afraid, he actually felt his blood heat up a little. An elite monster definitely meant better rewards. He weighed the hoe in his hand, his gaze roaming over the female zombie. The OL skirt suit she was wearing had gotten a little dusty, but it still clung tightly to her body, outlining breathtaking curves. Even after turning into a zombie, her movements were far more coordinated than those old, weak, sick, and disabled ones from earlier. She was still a bit stiff, though, and not very fast. She looked pretty much the same as an ordinary zombie. Her only advantage was that damn dog's nose. As long as I can get in close, one swing of the hoe will still put her down. Chen calculated silently in his heart. He had even already worked out a battle plan. Use his speed advantage to circle behind her and attack low first, crippling her mobility before then. However, just as he was about to make his move and claim this walking bundle of experience, creak, in the not-so-far distance, the already battered wooden door of a rural house was violently slammed open from the inside. A gaunt zombie wearing a blue cloth jacket staggered out. It locked onto Chen, the only living thing around, and then, as if setting off a chain reaction, crash. Another household's window was smashed open from the inside. A zombie that looked like a middle-aged woman stuck half her body out and let out a hoarse roar. At the same time, 3 staggering figures emerged from the alley beside her. 4. The noise he had made while clearing out the wandering zombies earlier had, in the end, still awakened these sneaky lurkers hiding in the shadows. Chen's pupils suddenly shrank, and the fighting spirit that had just flared up instantly went out. He was confident in taking on one elite monster alone, But now it was one elite monster plus 4 ordinary zombies in a stacked lineup. One-on-one, he was confident. One-on-two, he could barely manage. But now he'd have to face at least 4 zombies. If one of them so much as got a hand on him, wouldn't he be done for? Chen didn't hesitate in the slightest. He turned and ran straight for the tricycle. First, he had to get the tricycle. Even if it drew out more zombies, it didn't matter. The most important thing was getting his hands on the key means of transportation. Then he could just make a run for it. Very soon, Chen dashed to the vehicle in one stride, swung his right leg over with flair, and sat down steadily on the dust-covered seat cushion. He gripped the handlebars with both hands and stomped down hard with his feet. Creak, clack. The rusty chain let out an overloaded groan. The wheels started turning, and he rode the tricycle onto the road. That OL female zombie and the other ordinary zombies had already joined up and were chasing after him in the direction he left, but he quickly widened the gap. Chen didn't dare relax for even a second and pedaled like his life depended on it. But instead of choosing to flee the village directly, after putting some distance between them, he looped around and rode back the way he came, toward the courtyard where the well was. Fortune favors the bold. There was a low wall there. Based on what he'd observed before, these low-level zombies simply didn't have the mobility to climb over obstacles. That courtyard was safe for the time being. As long as he didn't go out, the zombies outside couldn't do anything to him, even if they smashed open the courtyard's wooden gate. He could also vault over the neighboring courtyard wall at the first moment and hop on the tricycle to make his escape. Perfect. Chen quickly mapped everything out in his head, and his feet moved even faster. Before long, he rode the tricycle back to the entrance of that familiar courtyard. He parked it just outside within easy reach, then quickly jumped off and slipped into the yard. He swung around and firmly shut the old wooden door, then wedged it tightly from the inside with a thick wooden stick. Only after finishing all that did he feel a little more at ease. He hurried over to the courtyard wall, carefully watching the situation outside. Sure enough, before long, that OL female zombie came staggering after him with several other ordinary zombies, following his scent. They gathered outside the courtyard wall, letting out hoarse growls from their throats, their hollow eyes fixed on Chen inside the yard, but they didn't try to climb over the low wall that was only waist-high. One of the zombies walked up to the courtyard gate and stretched out its claws to smack the wooden door a few times, making bang, bang sounds. The wooden door shook for a bit, but it was fairly sturdy and showed no signs of breaking. Chen finally relaxed completely. This courtyard was safe for now. Looking at the zombies outside the wall, frantic and running in circles yet utterly helpless, a wicked smile curled at the corner of Chen's mouth. He even flashed a middle finger at the OL female zombie from a distance. Come on, get in here. Naturally, the female zombie couldn't understand what the gesture meant and only roared even harder. Chen stopped paying attention to them and turned to walk over to the well. Since things were safe for the moment, he naturally couldn't waste time. His great water-selling enterprise had to go on. He took out those assorted containers from the warehouse. He started drawing water and filling them up. Then he opened the marketplace and listed them one by one. Product name: 1 bottle of well water, approximate 500 milliliters. Price: 2 survival points. Seller's note: buyer must provide a container of equal volume for the exchange. If you want to buy, be quick. I can only sell for a little while. Almost as soon as he had listed them, a trade successful notification appeared in the lower left corner of his vision. Trade completed. You gained 2 survival points. Trade completed. You gained 2 survival points. Looking at the system notifications appearing one after another, the smile on Chen's face grew brighter and brighter. This money was way too easy to make. It was practically free money. He hummed a little tune as he repeated the process of drawing water and putting up listings, while the survival points displayed on the interface shot up at a speed visible to the naked eye. Outside the door, the zombies pounding and growling now sounded more like celebratory background music for him. Time passed bit by bit in this bizarre, yet strangely harmonious atmosphere. Chen was already completely immersed in the joy of making money and had almost forgotten that an even bigger threat was closing in behind him. Until beep, beep, beep. Warning, warning. The toxic fog is only 500 meters away from you. Please evacuate as soon as possible. Repeat. The toxic fog is... The shrill alarm suddenly rang out in his head, jolting him awake from his dreams of profiteering. Holy shit. 500 meters. Chen's expression changed instantly. He whipped his head around and looked back toward the direction of the village. In his sight, that gray wall connecting heaven and earth was already right in front of him. The murky fog churned as if it were a giant beast ready to devour its prey. It opened its gaping bloody maw as if to swallow everything, bringing an unmatched sense of oppression. Damn it, I got too carried away selling water. He cursed under his breath, and without time to think, filled up one last bucket of water. With a thought, he shoved the full bucket and all the extra containers into the warehouse, then rushed to the wall in a few quick steps and scrambled over it with both hands and feet. The moment he landed, the few zombies outside the yard immediately charged after him with snarls, like sharks smelling blood. Chen couldn't even be bothered to spare them a glance. He leaped onto the tricycle and took off at once. The zombies chased close behind him, but with their stiff, awkward gait, how could they possibly catch a speeding tricycle? They were soon left far behind. Chen rode the tricycle at full speed down the deserted highway. After riding a few hundred meters, he glanced back uneasily. Back in the village, those ordinary zombies had already stopped and were now wandering around aimlessly. They seemed to have completely lost their target. However, one lone figure with graceful curves was still stubbornly chasing after him. It was that OL female zombie. No way, miss. Chen looked at that persistent figure and was completely speechless. Do you have to be this dedicated? I only poked you a few times with a wooden stick. Do you really need to chase me all this way? He even had the urge to stop the tricycle, turn around, and settle things with her once and for all. But when the corner of his eye caught the toxic fog behind him getting closer and closer, that thought was immediately dismissed. He had wasted too much time selling water just now. With the toxic fog right on his heels, every second now was incredibly precious. Killing this elite monster was tempting, sure, but it would definitely take some time. And if anything went wrong and the toxic fog caught up to him, the loss would far outweigh the gain. Better not make unnecessary trouble. I'm riding a tricycle. There's no way you can catch me on foot. Chen stopped paying attention to that love-struck stalker and focused back on the road ahead. He sped down the open highway on his tricycle. The rusty chain creaked and groaned in protest, as if it might snap at any moment. But right now, Chen thought the sound was more pleasant than any symphony. The wind howled past his ears, ruffling his short hair and carrying the dry scent unique to the Gobi. Having a ride feels freaking awesome. Compared to the miserable scramble of running for his life on two legs earlier, this felt like going from hell to heaven. Sure, pedaling the tricycle still took effort, but that sense of ease and control over his speed was something running could never match. He even had the leisure to glance back. That persistent OL female zombie had already been left far behind, reduced to a tiny black that was almost impossible to make out. Chen had no doubt that as long as he kept up this speed, it wouldn't be long before he completely shook off that love-struck stalker. See ya. In high spirits, he whistled and pedaled even harder. Once he was completely safe, he finally had time to open the interface and take stock of what he'd gained in the village. First was experience points. In the village, he had cleanly taken out a total of 6 zombies. Current EXP bar. Level 130/100. 6 zombies, 30 EXP, still 70 short of leveling up, Chen calculated. After leveling up, he'd get attribute points, which could make up for his shortcomings in strength and stamina. By then, whether running away or fighting, things would come much more easily to him. His gaze slowly moved downward, finally settling on the number in the survival points row. Survival points, 461. 461. Even though he was mentally prepared, the moment he saw that number, Chen's breathing still quickened uncontrollably, and his heart started pounding. He couldn't help reaching out with his right hand and tapping lightly at the number, as if he wanted to confirm it wasn't an illusion. 461 points. This wasn't some game token nonsense. This was hard currency that could buy water, buy food, and trade for his life. A sense of security he'd never felt before instantly wrapped around him. The anxiety of constantly worrying about survival was completely washed away by that string of numbers. He was rich now. Ha ha. Chen could no longer hold it in and burst out laughing. On the empty highway, only his own laughter echoed. With this startup capital, his future was undoubtedly brighter than that of most people. Only after laughing his fill did he open the chat interface with satisfaction, ready to see what kind of situation the poor bastards in the regional channel were in now. The moment he opened it, he keenly noticed the change in the head count. Current region, number 10,000 population, 982/1000. 18 fewer people. The smile at the corner of Chen's mouth faded slightly. From the start until now, it had only been 5 or 6 short hours, and already 18 people had been eliminated. Maybe they'd been killed by beasts, zombies, or other monsters, Or maybe they'd run out of strength and been swallowed by the poisonous mist. In any case, they had vanished from this world forever. This game was far crueler than he had imagined. He scrolled down through the chat logs, and the channel was full of misery. I can't take it anymore. Really can't take it anymore. I feel like my lungs are about to explode. I've been running from morning till noon without stopping. Who isn't? Survived 5 hours, got 5 survival points, and they're gone after buying 1 bottle of water. I've sweated more than 500 milliliters. This deal is a total ripoff. I'm so thirsty, so hungry. Can anyone spare me a little food? I'm willing to trade everything I have. Bro upstairs, save it. Who has the extra energy to care about anyone else right now? Staying alive is good enough. Anyone want to team up? It's too hard alone. I'm about to break down. Woohoo! I want to go home. I want my mom. Despair, exhaustion, and panic were practically spilling through the screen. Most people were still relying on their own legs to race the poisonous mist, with both body and mind nearing their limits. Of course, there were also a few lucky ones showing off. Ha ha ha, brothers, I got myself an old-school bicycle. The chain keeps falling off, but it's still better than running. Right now it feels like life has reached its peak. A long string of jealous replies immediately followed under that message. Right after that, someone even flashier appeared. A bicycle is nothing. Your bro here is already on an electric scooter, cruising at 30 miles per hour, feeling free as the wind. To everyone behind me, take your time catching up. I'm heading out first. The moment that message appeared, the whole channel exploded. Holy shit, an electric scooter? For real? Boss, where'd you get it? Drop the location. Damn, you lucky bastard. Reported. Of course, some people also made sour, skeptical comments. What's the use of an electric scooter? When the battery runs out, where are you going to charge it? Won't you just have to get off and push it then? That's even more exhausting. The electric scooter owner immediately fired back. So what if it can only go a few dozen kilometers? How far can those few dozen kilometers get me away from the toxic fog? How many supplies can they help me find? How much farther ahead can they put me than you? Think bigger, buddy. That speech left everyone speechless. Chen could only shake his head at the sight. Compared to those people, his old but fully human-powered tricycle was practically a divine tool. No need to worry about energy issues, and it could haul cargo too. It was basically the perfect choice for home, travel, escaping the toxic fog, and surviving. Sure enough, comparing yourself to others really is infuriating. He thought smugly to himself that if only there were no toxic fog, he could have sold water in that courtyard forever, directly monopolizing the water market in the survival world right after the server opened, becoming a true water king. Unfortunately, it was just a fantasy after all. He closed the chat channel and opened the marketplace again. Carrying the enormous fortune of 461 survival points, his browsing mindset had already shifted from bargain hunting to inspection. It really gave off the feeling of an overbearing CEO inspecting his own business empire. The marketplace was still full of all kinds of bizarre stuff. Rusty iron rods, original black stockings, unknown plant tubers. It had everything, fully showcasing the baffling things humans do when pushed to the brink. Of course, there were also some genuinely useful items. Item: 1 fire axe, 80% new. Price: 50 survival points. Seller's note: a perfect tool for breaking open doors. You'll get it once you use it. Fixed price: no haggling of any kind accepted. Item: brand new sledgehammer. Price: 80 survival points. Seller's note: the ultimate wall-smashing tool, 1 swing for 80. One hit with this, and it'll flatten your skull. Looking at these ridiculous prices, Chen couldn't help twitching at the corner of his mouth. Have these people gone crazy for money? At this stage, who could even come up with that many survival points? And even if they could, who'd be dumb enough to buy it? This was basically just listing stuff for self-amusement. He shook his head and exited the marketplace interface. Since there wasn't anything suitable to buy, he might as well upgrade his storage space first. He opened the shop and bought a warehouse space expansion card. Warehouse space expansion card permanently expands warehouse space by 1 cubic meter after use. He chose to use it. Sure enough, the warehouse space doubled, and the storage that had been nearly full instantly felt a lot less cramped. Ding! The shop has met the upgrade conditions. The crisp notification sound rang in his mind. Chen opened the shop again. Current level: 1. Upgrade EXP 100/100. Upgrade requirement: spend 100 survival points in the shop to upgrade. The shop has met the upgrade conditions. Upgrade now? Yes. Chen chose confirm without the slightest hesitation. Buzz. The shop icon on the bracelet interface flashed with a soft white light, then quickly returned to calm. Shop level increased to 2. New items unlocked. Before Chen even had time to check what the new items were, a cold, grand mechanical voice suddenly echoed through every survivor's mind without warning. World announcement. Chen, survivor of Region 10,000, has successfully upgraded the shop to level 2. As the first survivor in the survival world to complete a shop upgrade, you are specially awarded Blind Box Draw X3. Keep up the good work, all survivors. World announcement. Chen, survivor of Region 10,000, has successfully upgraded the shop to level 2. World announcement. Chen, survivor of Region 10,000, has successfully upgraded the shop to level 2. The system announcement repeated 3 times in a row. Chen's body suddenly stiffened while riding the tricycle, and he even forgot to pedal. The vehicle wobbled twice and almost tipped straight into the roadside ditch. He was completely numb. The expression on his face went from initial bewilderment to shock and finally turned utterly ashen. No, He opened his mouth, but for a long while couldn't force out a complete sentence. I'm exposed. He'd actually been exposed just like that, and in the most high-profile way possible, with a server-wide announcement. Damn you, system. Snapping back to his senses, Chen nearly spat out a mouthful of blood onto the handlebars. Shouldn't this kind of announcement have an anonymous option? Which idiot designer came up with this? Do you even want me to live? He was planning to make a fortune quietly by selling water and keep a low profile while building up in secret. And yet less than half a day into the game, the system announcement just straight up doxed him by name, like it was afraid people wouldn't know he was filthy rich. Low-key. Staying low-key is the ultimate rule. The number one rule of surviving the apocalypse. The tallest tree catches the wind. How could he, a web novel author who'd written over 10 million characters, not understand that? But now, the system had forcibly shoved him right into the spotlight. The announcement didn't just report his name. It even spilled everything about the 10,000 region he was in. You might as well just announce my ID number while you're at it. Chen was trembling with rage, feeling his blood pressure shoot through the roof. Now the whole world knew that in Region 10,000, there was a loaded fat cat named Chen, rich as hell. Great. Just great. He was no longer some ordinary survivor, but a walking treasure chest now. The kind that drops gold coins, too. He fought back the urge to start cursing and opened the regional chat channel. Sure enough, the regional chat channel, which had just been full of despair and wailing, had now completely exploded, with messages refreshing so fast they were leaving afterimages. Holy shit. Holy shit. Did you all hear that world announcement just now? The big shot is from our region. Chen. He's from our region? Which hero is he? Step forward so we can worship you. Boss, you're freaking amazing. You upgraded the shop in less than 6 hours after the start. How many monsters did you kill? Or did you find some kind of treasure? Boss Chen. Need an accessory? The kind that can spam 666 and warm your bed. Get lost, the person above. Don't disgust our God Su. God Su, look at me, I'm your true fan. Brother Chen, carry me, pretty please. I'd do anything for you. I've got a pair of freshly taken off original black stockings here. Want them? Black stockings? Black stockings again. Is this stuff hard currency now? Boss, don't pay attention to that green tea bitch upstairs. I swear to heaven, mine are bigger than hers. As long as you carry me, you can do whatever you want. If you don't believe me, we can verify over private video chat. Get lost. You bunch of mediocre sluts. Boss Chen is a man destined for great things. How could he possibly be tempted by your looks? Person above, please DM me instead. My roommate wanted to see it before he died. Reading these messages made Chen's scalp tingle and left him feeling completely awful. He had no doubt at all now that if he dared say even a single word in the channel, he'd be drowned in countless messages the very next second. Right now, he was like a chunk of fresh meat thrown into a pack of starving wolves, with countless eyes staring greedily at him through the screen. Out of sight, out of mind. Chen's face was ashen as he directly closed the chat channel, not even bothering to check the world channel. Right now, all he wanted was to find a place, dig a hole, and bury himself in it. He rode his tricycle and pedaled like his life depended on it, as if what was chasing him from behind wasn't poisonous fog, but countless starving wolves out to strip him to the bone. Creak, creak. The rusty chain let out a shrill protest. But Chen acted like he didn't hear it at all. Right now, all he wanted was to get as far away from this troublesome place as possible. Calm down. I have to calm down. He gasped for breath, forcing his chaotic thoughts to become clear again. So what if he'd been exposed? What's done is done, and regretting it now would be useless. At the very least, nobody knew what he looked like, nor did they know his exact location right now. Judging from the information in the chat channel, nobody had run into each other yet. These people were scattered across different roads, so trying to find him would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. As long as he stayed careful and didn't make contact with strangers too easily, he was still safe for the time being. Right. Safe. Once he figured that out, his mood finally settled a little. Since the downside has already hit, might as well look at the upside. He shifted his attention to the system rewards. With a thought, he opened the storage space. In the corner, 3 exquisite little boxes glowing with 7-colored light were lying there quietly. Item: mystery loot box type, special item quality, unknown note. After opening, you will randomly obtain 1 item. It could be a useful item, or it could just be a brick. Good luck, lucky one. A mystery box? Chen looked at that annoyingly smug note and curled his lips. He was way too familiar with this kind of thing. In his previous life, he'd been pushed around plenty by all kinds of game gacha pulls and loot boxes. Sometimes one pull hit the jackpot. Sometimes you could only rely on the pity system. It was totally the kind of thing that tested your luck. Were you blessed by RNG or cursed by it? Open 3 boxes and you'd know. Chen licked his somewhat dry lips, and his heart started pounding uncontrollably. He glanced around. The toxic fog had already pulled away some distance, and the bare surroundings didn't seem to hold any danger. Right now was the perfect time to open the boxes. Take a gamble. Turn a bike into a motorcycle. Chen parked the tricycle by the roadside, rubbed his hands together, a trace of reverence on his face, and muttered under his breath. Spirits above, Buddha, the Jade Emperor, Jesus, Virgin Mary. 3 pure ones and ancestral Taoist masters above. Your believer Chen has spent his life doing good deeds, helping old ladies cross the road, and feeding stray cats ham sausages. This time when I open these boxes, please show a miracle and don't wreck my mentality. He took a deep breath and focused his mind on the first mystery box glowing with 7-colored light in the storage space. Open. I'm done. Let it all be destroyed. The mystery box opened in response. But there was no dazzling golden light effect like he'd imagined, only a plain and simple white flash. A familiar plastic package appeared right there in the storage space. Chen took a closer look and was completely dumbfounded. It was a pack of napkins, the kind commonly seen in supermarkets, a family value bundle with 10 packs. On the light screen in front of him, the item info popped up at just the right moment. Item: 1 pack of napkins type, daily necessities quantity, 10 large packs. Note: made from premium virgin wood pulp, thickened to 4 layers, soft and skin-friendly, with strong absorbency. Your best companion at home or on the road, whether wiping your mouth or wiping your butt. No, that's it. He was a little speechless, and even wanted to laugh. A world announcement, first on the whole server, a triple reward combo, and this was it? Napkins. Sure, this stuff had plenty of uses. Wiping hands, wiping face, going to the bathroom. In the apocalypse, being able to maintain personal hygiene really was a luxury. But the problem was, this came out of a mystery box. This was the mystery box carrying all his hopes. He'd imagined pulling out a treasure blade sharp enough to cut iron like mud, or a bulletproof vest impervious to knives and bullets. At the very least, an infinite ammo Desert Eagle would have been fine. What a total loss. Chen felt like his heart was bleeding.